First thing we want to do is probably discuss the railing components. So I have a pre-drawn railing here already that we can use to point these out. The first component to touch on in a railing would be the top rail. We can select that by pressing tab and left clicking. We also have the handrail and the supports that go along with it. And then elements that we cannot select separately are the balusters and the intermediate rails. So as far as the railing goes, those are the main components to it. Okay, let's talk about balusters. I have a pre-drawn railing already on the screen. So let's pick on it, choose edit type. I'm going to go into edit under baluster placement, and I get my edit baluster placement dialog box. So I'm going to breeze through some of these settings here. You have the name, which you can create. You can make it a unique name if you so wish. The baluster family that's being used, the host for the base, the top, which would be our top rail element, a base offset and a top offset. Both of them work in the vertical direction. Then we have distance from previous, so that's how far the post is from the post immediately before it. Even if I add extra lines here, if I say duplicate, and say the next one is 1 foot. So that's 1 foot away, and that's 2 foot from the previous one. These really are going to be, this is an 8 foot wide pattern now. So our first post will come in 5 feet from the start, and then this one will come in 1 foot from this 5 foot one here, and then the next one will come in 2 feet away from this one. We set it, from baluster number 3, and so on. And then the pattern will start all over again. 5 feet later, this baluster will show up. So I click apply to that. I can show you real quick. You can see how it did that. So we got 5 feet, 1 feet, 2 foot, 5 foot, 1 foot, 2 foot. So I'm gonna add the type, come back in here, and let's delete these because we are not going to use those. Okay. I'm going to change my distance from previous to something else, like I'm going to say 4 feet, and well, let's go 3 foot. And we're going to break this pattern at each segment end. And we want to justify this. I typically like a spread pattern to fit option. Now if I had to have the 5 feet, then I would start it at the beginning and I would tell it to truncate the pattern to make it all fit. So here we have our 3 feet, but then when we get to the end here, we've only got a 2 foot section, which is, I don't like that. I would rather everything be even, so I'll choose spread pattern to fit, apply that and say okay, and now all of our panels are the same distance apart. I think 2 foot tends a little bit shy, or a little bit close together there, so let's go ahead and put this back to a 5 foot. Since it's a 20 foot rail, in this situation it probably will accept the 5 feet. I'll take the 5 feet. If I made, we're not going to go into if I change dimensions. It's either going to make this a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger so they all fit evenly. So again, back to the edit type. Now down here we can tell it, okay, put 2 balusters on each stair tread, or 3 balusters on each stair tread. It's not typically a setting that I use, so I'm leaving that clear. You have your start post, you have your corner post, and you have the end post. And then you can decide where your corner posts are going to be at. If they're going to be at each segment end, or if they're going to be at angles greater than, say, 89 degrees. You want to make sure only at a corner post when you made a 90-degree turn. That's how you would do that. However, we're going to go ahead and leave it at each segment end. I'm going to apply this and come back out here. I also want to show you how to add the intermediate balusters, and it's going to touch a little bit on the railing, but we'll get more depth into the rails themselves in the next session. So again, I'm going to click on Edit for baluster placement. I'm going to duplicate this baluster. We're going to make it the 1/2 inch. We're going to have a see, what I'd like to have is intermediate rail down low, and then a third rail in between here up higher, that these balusters, the 1/2 inch balusters, can run between. So for now, I'm just going to leave this as intermediate rail. I'm going to leave the top constraint as the top rail element. But I'm going to change this distance from previous to 4 inches. Okay, and now I have to have the first baluster, since we want to have a 5-foot pattern. So one thing we need to pay attention to is down here where it says pattern length. So from baluster to baluster it's going to be 5 feet, and then we'll have 4-inch ballast in between. Now if I click OK like this, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get a 5-foot space, the post, then I'm going to get 4-inch space, and I'm going to have the 1/2 inch ballast, and then it's going to go 5 feet again till the next post, and that's not what we want. So we actually need to put in all of the balusters here until we have the correct length pattern that we're looking for. However, I don't want to have to replace this top rail element 10 times for these ballasts, so I'm just going to click apply right now. I'm going to come to my rail structure, and I'm going to add a rail here. I'm going to leave the intermediate rail, I'm going to put that at 6 inches above the base, and then the new rail, I'm going to go 42 inches minus 6 is 38 inches. And I want to change this to match this intermediate rail here. So I'll copy that, I'll paste that name in, say apply, and OK. Now I come back here, I can switch my top element to new rail, and now I have a ballast running between those two. So if I duplicate this, I'm going to keep an eye down on my pattern length. That should say 10 feet, right? One too many. Okay. See, this is not at all how this should go, though. Because like I said, this is going to start at the beginning. So we're going to have a 5-foot space here in the front. So what I want to do is I want to put this guy down here at the bottom. And then also, it's not 5 foot from the previous ballast anymore. It's only 4 inches from the previous ballast. So I'm going to change that. And now we have a pattern length of 5'4". Again, not exactly what we're looking for. It means we have one too many ballast in here. So I'll take that one out. Our pattern length is at 5 feet. I'm happy with it so far, so I'm going to say apply. Okay, apply here, and we can see how our railing is updated to show all those ballasts now in the post as we described. Okay, so what if we want to modify our ballast? I mean, these do leave a little bit to be desired. If all you ever need is a round ballast or a square post, the out-of-the-box contents are plenty for what you would need to do, and I'd recommend use them because they're already set up with the voids and the angled parameters, which is a tough one to duplicate anyway. So what I want to do is come back here, edit type. I want to see which ballast. Right, baluster round 1/4 inch, 1 5/8 inch OD. Okay, so that's the ballast that I'm looking for. That's the one that I want to modify. So come in here, And here we go. So I'm going to choose edit, and now this ballast has come up. Now you don't get to see, I mean, you can't really tell what's going on too much. You can see the void, you can see the solid, but it's not until you go into one of the orthogonal views. I like to use the left view, where you can see the parameters that are called out, the reference planes, etc. So for this, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add a family to this that gives us like a floor base. So now this post will only ever really be able to be used in on a flat railing, a non-sloping railing, so to say. We could tweak it so that the base, conforms with this angle down here, which is something I would recommend, so you didn't have to assign this as a flat railing or a non-sloped railing piece. However, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to go to my reference level, and I'm going to pull in my base, ballast around, it's okay to that. Just snap it here. Now when I go back to my 3D view, you can see the bases here. Now here's also where I would tell it, choose edit type. Probably, well, I guess the material wasn't assigned. Oh yeah, there's no material assigned in the family. So we'd have to come in here, have to pick these, find the materials, paste. Okay, load it back into our baluster. So now in the edit type, now I have a category. Now I can have I'll leave it be the same as the baluster material. So I'm going to save this as baluster. Floor with floor base. I'm going to load this into our railings. I'm going to pick this railing. And I already know I started this railing from left to right, so I already know that my start post is the one that we're looking at here. And I'm going to change this to with floor base. I'm going to say apply to that. Say OK. And now we have our railing with a floor base. Now we could do this for all of them since they're all on the floor. So I'm going to select this one, this family, name. I'm just going to paste that into the rest of these slots. Right, so there's my end post, my beginning post, my corner post, but we can't forget to fill it in up there too. So say OK to that. And now we have a base on all of our posts. Now let's talk about rails. So here I have the same railing we've been working with. I just broken my view up into 3 windows. So we have a 3D view, we have the section view, and we have the elevation view. So we'll really be able to see how all these rails are interacting. So we'll pick on the handrail, choose edit type. Now this is where certain components at different levels get changed, so it's not to mess up anything that we've already done. It's always good etiquette to duplicate. At this point, we'll call it 2-pipe guardrail, and we're going to add we're going to add a standard termination. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is you can see on the end of the rail here how that top rail only comes halfway over top of the first baluster. So that's what we're going to modify. So that's down here on our top rail. We're going to choose the ellipse, and I'm going to duplicate this and call it top rail, standard termination. Okay, and down here at the extension style, I'm going to leave that at none. I'm simply going to come down here to the terminations, and I've already loaded a termination in here. It's just a generic family. It's controlled by diameters, and it's just going to put a cap on the end of this rail for me. So I say OK to that. I'm going to say OK. Let's check out the profile is 1.58, so we should be good. And we can ignore that. And we did not get our extension. Type top rail. Terminations. Why would that not appear? Okay, let's see what the termination is. Railings. Termination standard. We got its termination length. Looks good. Let's reload. I'm going to redraw this rail. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to clean up this end of the top rail so that it looks a little nicer than it does now. So we'll select the rail, we're going to select the guardrail, choose edit type. Now this is where I start renaming the duplicating and renaming the family types as we go along, so as not to corrupt anything that's already been built. So this, I've already duplicated and renamed this to standard termination. We're going to come down here to our top rail, and the termination is part of the rail type. So we're going to select that, and all I want to change is down here, beginning, bottom, termination. I want those to say termination standard. So I'm actually going to, I've already created that. So I've got top rail termination. Again, the extension styles are none. The only thing different is the termination standard option here. When I say OK to that, now we get our termination. Okay. Now we could change that handrail if we wanted to. I could unpin it, and then I could come over here and I could change it back to the top rail type. As soon as I do that though, I'm not able to change it with the style anymore. So if I come to the edit type, we can see it's still set to top rail standard termination. If I repin it, it goes back to the standard top rail. Some other things that we want to look at with top rail. Edit the type. We're going to go ahead and leave the standard termination there. We're going to set the extension style to come to the post. It's going to extend 1 foot. We're going to go to the post on the end. This is going to be 1 foot. Again, I don't have an option to duplicate here or rename, and this is a change that you'd want to make in the family, you know, as a separate family. So I'm going to go ahead and back out of that. Pick my rail again, choose edit type. Now here in the top rail standard termination, I can select that. Now I can duplicate it. So I'm going to duplicate, I'm going to call it top rail extensions. I'm going to set the extensions to wall, to 1 foot, just as we did before. Wall, 1 foot. I'm going to leave the termination there. Actually, no, I'm going to turn that off. It's just extra geometry that we don't need. So we'll say OK to that. Looks like everything is set correctly. And we'll apply. Say OK. It did not return back down to the post like we expected. So let's explore that. Edit type. Top rail with extensions. Nope, I selected it wrong. Should have come down to the post. I selected wall. I'm going to say OK to that. Now the extension is off a little bit here. So we have what we can do is to tune this up a little bit farther is to select the handrail, choose edit rail, choose edit path, and then we can drag this guy over here. We can pull that down to make it match the intermediate rail, and we can put a little bit of a radius on these just to clean it up a little bit. We back out of those. So that's how we get our extensions. Okay. So it's out of handrail. We're going to go to edit type. We're going to go to down here to the handrail. We're going to let's duplicate this. It's going to be a guardrail with handrail. Having handrail is going to insinuate that we have top rail extensions, because those handrails are required to extend beyond the ramp or beyond the steps, and they're going to have to return to something, which then would require the extension to the handrail. So we're going to go into type. We're going to, let's call this handrail with wire supports. Okay, we're going to stick with all these settings except for the transition. We're going to turn it into a simple transition. Our extension style, we're going to turn it to the wall. I'm going to go 1 foot. I'm going to go to the wall here. It's going to go 1 foot. And the terminations we're going to leave alone. Now the supports, we're going to choose the metal circular wire, which is already aligned. We're going to choose align with post, but as you see, it's not going to. Actually, let's try maximum spacing. We're going to put 5 foot in here and see if we have better luck with that. And click the buttons too fast. We need to tell the handrail what position it's going to be in. So our options are none, left, right, and left and right. So keep in mind that this is in relation to the guardrail itself. So we're looking at the right side and we want to be able to see it, so we're going to choose right, we're going to choose apply and say OK. And you can see now our handrail shows up. You can also see that our supports are not lining up as we'd expect. I'm going to come back into this and I'm going to change this to align with post, which it's not going to fill in the entire length of the rail. We can see we're missing here, but the two ends are here, and I'll show you how we get them to the other side in a minute. We can also see the handrail though is sticking out past the end here, so let's clean that up with a tab, select the top rail, choose edit path. I'm just going to nudge this back. I'll say OK to that. Now our supports we can also select by choosing tab select. Now they're pinned, but we can copy them. Let's make sure we hit the multiple. I'm just going to copy to the center of each of these posts. Okay, that's a lot faster than having to adjust 5 different connectors. And then I'm going to pin them just so they don't get moved in the future. We'll modify this end rail. Just nudge this out. I'm going to nudge this down and bring it to the middle. And finally, that's not letting me select those lines to fill them. So we're going to leave that go. Figure that one out another time. So here's our handrail. I think we're looking pretty solid. Let's talk about the rails individually. Okay, so if we come in, choose edit type, let's go to our rail structure. We can add them just as easily by clicking duplicate, and then we can change the height. And we're going to move that down. I don't think they have to be in any certain order. And let's put one more in here. We'll move that up, and we'll make that 34 inches. Which would actually be the same right as the handrail. Just apply that. Another thing is our preview. There's a preview window here. I'm not sure what the excess fill length is about, but so we can preview where our rails are going to be. And actually, this height is measured to the underside. Actually, no, it's measured to the top of the rail, so that needs to equal 2 foot 10 inches plus 1 and 5/8. Now our rails are parallel. Almost. Okay. Okay. Let's put a wall-mounted handrail on this set of stairs. So we'll walk through that process. I'm going to select my railing. I'm going to make sure I'm on the stringer. I'm going to select the stair. I'm going to delete this rail for clarity. And here's the rail we're going to start with. So we're going to edit this type. I'm going to duplicate it. Call it handrail. Wall-mounted handrail. Wall-mounted handrail. Okay, we're going to come into the rail structure. We don't want rails. We're going to delete that. And the baluster placement. We're going to set this to none. Same with all of these. And now, I keep getting that error, so I'm actually going to change this just in case it makes a difference. And we have our, top rail left. Let's say okay to that. Now, here's one of the keys. It's going to start throwing errors that it can't create a railing if you go and turn off the top rail right away. So I say no, can't create a railing, and it's going to want to delete that. So we don't want that. So we're going to set this back to yes for now. See, that's just a mess. And you guys start getting out dialogues and back in to make them work. So now, let's make sure everything's saved. See how they're saved. So when we have tangent joints, we're going to extend the rails to meet. We're going to add vertical and horizontal segments when we need to. I like to weld the connections. And down here for handrail 1, we're going to change that to the style that we created, the family that we created a little in the previous session. Handrail with wire supports. And we're going to double check our settings. So our beginning extension at the bottom of the wall is going to be, it's going to return to the wall. It's going to have a length of 1 foot. And we're going to add a tread depth to it. So that's going to take it down past the stair a little bit so that when you're on the floor, you still have a 34-inch high handrail. We are going to change the height here though, make that 34 inches. Extension style for the top, same thing, returns to the wall, and we're required to go 1 foot past the riser, top riser, so that's what that's for. We're going to leave the terminations alone. And we have our circular wire metal support that we've created in the last one as well. Then the layout is changed to a fixed number because we don't have any posts to align to anymore, so that'll throw an error also. So we're going to do fixed number. I'm going to set it to 4. If I need more or less, I can delete them or copy and add them. So say apply to this, say okay. Let's check out our preview. And we need to say which side we're going to have this, as if there was a guardrail there. So again, we're going to stick with the right side. Let's say apply to that. And we have our rail. And then we can turn off the top rail. And now we say okay. It shouldn't give us any errors. Alright. Okay, it looks like all we have to do is flip the justification of this railing. So select that over in the plan view here. We'll hit the little flip icon, and now we have our railing located properly. Now we can also see, if I go into top view on my 3D view here, we can see that our connectors aren't touching. Okay, let's figure out how to line up this railing. So we're gonna set this offset. That puts it on there. So now we're gonna take it, I believe it's a 2-inch. So we'll offset it from the path by 2 inches. And that should stick us up against the wall. go back to our 3D view here, and we see we're looking much better. Now, just because we put the 1 foot in, the 1 foot extension in, doesn't mean that we actually have the 1 foot extension, in my experience anyway. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this stair transparent for a few minutes. I'll say okay to that. And I want to put a dimension in here to the end of that stair. Yeah, see, I'm at 2 feet for that stair, which means this probably doesn't even have to have the extension. So if we go in here and I say for the bottom, let's not have that. It's okay. Now we have our extension as shown. Although it's not the prettiest in the 3D views. So sometimes a fillet will help that. If you come to fillet, let's say make it as a 2-inch fillet. Okay, and that cleans it up a little bit there. The last thing we can do is we can tab select this railing. We can edit that, we can edit the path. We can say, hey, we're gonna pull you out just a little bit more though, just so that angle's not so harsh looking. Okay, that's much better looking railing. Let's go check the top side. So again, we got to stretch 1 foot past the riser. So I'm going to pick the and we have our 1 foot 3/8 inches there. So I can edit that path. Let's do it here. Tab select so that we get the edit rail, and then edit the path. Screw that, boom. Just nudge it back a little bit till we see our 1 foot. There we go. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed it or found something useful. If so, help me out and press the like button below. Click the subscribe button and you'll get notifications when new videos are uploaded.